Unburdened.
So, quick question before we close out the show. There was something that I wanted to talk about today as well.
Oh, go for it.
It also it brings right back to the conversation we had, which I'm glad that we segued into something that could bring to this. But I recognized this week that I have been in a minor depression for at least the last 7 months. And I did not realize it. Did not realize it. It wasn't until the beginning of January when the new year started, and normally I have all of this energy. I've got new goals I'm going after. Like, usually the new year for me means, okay, kickstart everything. Boom, we're going full speed. Bro, I had told you before that I was sitting there playing Call of Duty until like 5 o'clock in the morning, like every day. New Year started, same thing. First week of the new year, I would get off work, I would come home, I would sit in a beanbag chair, and I would play Call of Duty until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would be dragging myself out of bed to go to work the next day, miserable the whole time, come home, not talking to the kids, not talking to the wife, go sit down in a beanbag chair playing Call of Duty until 3 o'clock in the morning. And I haven't played video games in like 3 years. It then hit me that, oh, this is not normal. Like, you're not okay. And I think because I'm not normally that way, right? Because this isn't something that I deal with all the time. I didn't even recognize it when it started happening. But this year at work, you know, you and me have talked a lot about the crap that happened to me at work this year. But I basically had my entire career stripped out of my hands because this little white woman decided I don't want to have to work for a black guy. And so I'm going to try to ruin his life. And everybody from her peer level to my peer level to my bosses, all the way up to corporate, just stood by and let it all happen. And I had to defend myself. I had to defend my life. I had to defend my career and my livelihood with all of the paperwork, documentation, and receipts that proved that she was lying 100%. Not only was she lying, but she was doing this maliciously because she wanted the job that I got promoted to, and she was mad that she had to work for me. And I provided all those receipts, which is the only reason why I still have a job. And then after the investigations closed and they were like, oh, dang, he didn't do any of it and he's not getting fired. Well, what do we do now? Guess we just sit him over in a corner until we can figure out what to do with him because we figured he was going to get fired. And all of this happening, literally, I got promoted into a lead role, and within 6 months, there's all these lead associates around here. Within 6 months, the one black dude who got promoted to lead is under investigation and damn near about to get fired because somebody just decided that they wanted to ruin his life, and everybody just stood by and watched it happen. So I'm saying all that to say that once it all shook out, and I'm sitting here going to work every day with these people who don't even acknowledge what was done. Like, they don't acknowledge, just like, oh, no, she's great. She's this, she's that. I'm like, y'all saw what she just did to me, and you see that it was wrong, right? I mean, I think you're overreacting, right? It's the, well, I don't think that was racist. I think you're overreacting. It's not that big a deal, right? And so I'm literally sitting here going to work every day in this huge gaslighting campaign where everybody else around me is looking at me like, what are you upset for? It's not that big a deal. You still got your job, right? And I don't trust anybody. And I can't just say you did this to me, right? And have people acknowledge it. And so I've literally just been spiraling down and down and down and down and down. And tying it back to what we were just talking about, there's a situation where, okay, maybe somebody doesn't owe you an apology, but they owe you acknowledgement. Like, there's one thing to say I have, you hurt me. We haven't been in a relationship in a long time. We haven't had a relationship in a long time, but this thing is hanging out there. It's another thing to say, you did this to me dead in my face, and I have to deal with you every single day, right? We literally have to work together every single day. And every day I come in here, it's like I'm being gaslit because all of you act like it just never happened. Meanwhile, I've been wronged, right? It's been proven that I never did anything wrong to anybody. And do I want an apology? I want the shit to be fixed, but that ain't going to happen. I don't care about your apology, but the acknowledgement. There's a point where when you have a relationship that's got to continue with somebody who has harmed you, it fucks with your mental health for them to not even acknowledge the thing that they did to you. That not even that they did it or that it was wrong or any of it, and they look at you like you lost your mind because you don't want to be around them or work with them every single day. And day after day, week after week, month after month, dealing with that, you start to question your own reality. I mean, that's what gaslighting is about. You start to question whether or not you are the one who's wrong, whether or not you need to somehow just get over it or all this kind of stuff. And I personally can't function like that. I can't function without the acknowledgement. I sat down with my supervisor the other day. By the other day, I mean literally, what's today, Sunday? So 2 days ago. And I pulled him in a separate room, and I just said, in order for me to stay here, it would be really, I need someone, I need you to acknowledge, to say, yeah, we railroaded the shit out of you. We really fucked your career. And you didn't do anything wrong, and you don't deserve it. And damn, we can't fix any of it, but at least we acknowledge that everything we just did to you was completely fucked up. There's a part of it for the person who has been wronged and who's stuck dealing with that one person again or every day, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a job, whatever, where you do need that person to acknowledge, no, this was fucked up. Otherwise, you're walking around feeling like you can't trust your own thoughts, right? And it's gaslighting is a whole other side of the conversation that goes with the I've grown, but like that is the malicious side of it. So anyway, I needed to get that off my chest because I don't normally present like that I'm feeling depressed or that I'm in a depression. I don't believe in like, oh, I feel depressed, right? I feel sad. That happens. But I did not realize that I have literally been in a depression for like 7 months until something so drastic happened that was out of my character, like me just coming home and sitting down and playing video games every day till 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, I'm not that dude. What the fuck is going on with me? And then I had to assess and think about how I got here and what it was, and then decide I need to change something. I don't have a lot of experience with that, so I wanted to bring it up and I wanted to ask from somebody who has experienced depression and knows that it's there. Like, how do you recognize when you're going into those times, and how do you work on fighting against it?
Well, before I go into that, first of all, I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry that you're in one of those environments where they're just like, we're going to posse up against you no matter what. It's tantamount to you standing amongst all these people that you think are your peers, and you find out that while we're all equal, there's some who are more equal than others, and it's just... This is one of those situations where even if you've been through it, you don't want to say, I've been through it too, because then it will turn into some sort of a pissing match about issues that you've been through. Just know that it is very hard to rebuild that bridge. And your boss isn't going to acknowledge that they did anything wrong because if you
Oh no, he did. So that's the thing. I guess that's what I didn't get across is that most of these people who are looking at me like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
mm-hmm.
They're good people, right? They weren't directly involved in this happening, but they also like it's a corporate thing, it's a legal thing, right? As soon as somebody makes a legal complaint, everybody just has to the waters have to part, the investigation has to happen because at any point, if anybody interferes with it, then legal repercussions and shit. So basically, the seas parted and there was nobody there for me.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody I could talk to. There was nobody who could support me. There was nobody who anything. They literally just put me in a corner and waited for me to get fired.
But you say they're good people.
But what I mean is
Did they do that to her?
No, because she was the one who put in. But she was the one who put in the complaint, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about this is basically whistleblower stuff, right? Everybody assumes it's a good faith report, and so there's non-retaliation. So it's a fucked up thing where you can literally abuse a system to target somebody else, but because you use that system, you are protected completely. And if anybody does anything to you from that point forward, you can just say this is retaliation and you can sue. And companies know that. So they just let her be. Me, on the other hand, I'm immediately assumed guilty, right? Mm-hmm. I'm put into a corner until I can be fired. I have to defend myself in all of these things. And then when I show all the receipts showing not only I've never done anything wrong, but here's all the receipts showing all the stuff that she did wrong and the fact that she set this whole thing up, they still, as a company, are like, well, we can't do anything about that, even though here's all the evidence, because if we punish her for doing this, it looks like retaliation and she can sue us. Oh, so do we know that this is wrong to leave you out here hanging and protect our system, protect our business, or do we do the integrity thing and say, no, we're going to punish her because we do have the receipts and we're going to deal with what comes? And most companies, including mine, are like, no, we're not touching that. Sorry, bro. But, hey, at least you still got a check coming. At least you didn't get fired, right? But all the people around me that I see day to day and all that kind of stuff, they weren't involved in this. So all they still see is they see her walking around like doo-doo-doo and me walking around like I fucking hate this place. Mm-hmm. Who do you want to be around, right? You want to be around me or you want to be around the person who's walking around super happy because they won? As a leadership team, what are you going to do? Are you going to somehow affect this woman's career in any way when you know that she's just going to turn around and say, oh, I didn't get this because XYZ, and she's going to sue you? Or are you just going to kind of leave her alone because you know what happens when somebody crosses her? Because you've got literal evidence of that now, right? The easiest thing to do is to just let me get fucked.
Well, the thing to me is...
And that's what... Well, hold on real quick.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But when I had this conversation the other day and I said, I really need it acknowledged, my boss said, no, I fully acknowledge. Did this wrong, did that wrong, did this wrong, completely fucked this up, right? Like it's, I'm not dealing with the type of people who, when I call it out, they're just going to be like, no, fuck you. But there's a thing in a business, right, where most people are not going to go up to their boss and say, hey, I need you to acknowledge that you fucked this up. Right? Most people are just either going to be stuck in it or they're going to quit.
But here's my idea of support. And I might be crazy. I might be a little bit off on this belief. But if I was your friend before this happened and I distanced myself from you, first of all, I'm not a true friend. And secondly, when it all hits the fan and everything shows that you were absolved, I should be the first one apologizing. You shouldn't have to go to them and say, I need you to acknowledge this. He should have said, yo, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you walked through this fire. I'm sorry I couldn't support you or help you out in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sorry that I didn't show you the support that you needed. mic drop. I don't need you to forgive me. I'm absolving myself of this, really. But the way that it happened when you went up to him and said, pretty much, I need you to acknowledge, that's like saying you owe me an apology. He may not have felt that way. You'll never know now because the opportunity was opened up to him. But it's like, would he have taken that shot if you hadn't said, hey, you're open?
Well, no, but I don't see him as the same thing. I don't see an apology and acknowledgement as the same thing. Because I'm not asking you to apologize for the thing you did. Mm-hmm. The acknowledgement to me is, hey, I know I'm not crazy. I know I'm not the only one who sees this shit that happened, right? I need somebody else other than me to say, no, I see it too, right? We see what happened. We see what happened. We see what happened, right? So that I'm not just sitting here in the middle of this thing like a freaking crazy person who's like, there's a freaking elephant right here. It's a huge ass elephant. It's right in front of you. And people are like, I
don't see it.
You're crazy. No, that's all I was saying is I can't, and I feel like whether it's a continuing relationship where you don't have the opportunity to just say, well, I'm done with this, I'm walking away, right? Mm-hmm. I have to come work with you every single day. How do you move forward in a way that's honest, in a way that can actually be constructive until all parties involved acknowledge the reality of the thing that happened? Whether you're sorry about it or not, right? Acknowledge that this thing is here, because all of the planning and all the changes and all of the growth that we're going to go through from this point forward has to include all this shit. Otherwise, we're living in a dream world and there's no way that we can move forward, right? That's how I feel about it. And it was that part. It was the fact that nobody acknowledged it, so I can't fix it, right? Nobody acknowledges this, so we can't grow together because I'm going in this direction because this direction includes all the facts, and you're going off in this direction because you're like, well, we've got all the facts. What about all this shit that happened? What shit that happened? No. We've got all the information we need, and this is the best direction. No, it's not, because there's a bunch of shit you're not including, right? So I needed the acknowledgement for include all this shit in all of the planning for what we're going to be doing going forward, so this shit doesn't happen again. And it was up until literally Friday that nobody acknowledged it. They just kept pushing the ball down and saying, we'll figure out a way to fix it. We'll get things back around and we'll never actually have to acknowledge what we did because finally it'll all work itself out. I'm like, that shit's not going to work itself out until you acknowledge that we did bad things and made mistakes that we can't make again, right? And that was what was driving me crazy. That was what was making me feel like I couldn't trust my own brain. And I've always been able to trust my own brain, which is what I feel like was driving me into this state of depression of I can't trust anything that I do or anything that I think. I should just sit down and play video games. Wow. Because anything else that I do it's going to be trash because I don't know. Anyway,
the first
I just
time,
wanted to say it.
The first time I broke down, the first time I had a mental breakdown, I was at a job where if I talked to my coworkers and they told my boss and I talked with my boss, nothing would get fixed. My boss would tell me straight out, I don't believe any of you. My boss would say, I take all of your comments with a grain of salt. I was the only black person in the office. My coworker would tell them that I was a bully, that I was big and scary, and, all the catchphrases. And my boss would call me in, so I would go above my boss and talk to her boss. And my boss was a white woman. Her boss was an Asian lady. And they would sit together, and they would both listen to me. And then they'd say, well, do you consider the other side? And nobody ever considered my side. And so I would walk like, doesn't anybody else see what's happening here? Because it wasn't just me that this was happening to. And I broke. I ended up walking down the middle of the street, crying, saying I needed to talk to my dad. And the only person who was there at that time who was able to walk me off that ledge was my homeboy, Michael Scarfinger. I didn't want to tell my wife. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't know what was going on. You battling with them all of this time, you battling with her, you battling with management, you battling for your life, you battling for your livelihood, it's going to take an effect. It's going to have an effect on how you see the rest of the world, how you see what's going on. It's going to affect what's going on inside of you, both physically and mentally. And the way that you recognize it isn't always the same for everybody, because you were able to put on blinders to things that you were doing that were vastly different from things that you would usually have done. And you were able to put on earplugs so you weren't able to hear your wife and your family when they were like, hey, you're playing Call of Duty an awful lot, ain't you? So me, when I experienced depression for the first time, you know what I did the first time I really started feeling low and down and depressed? I wrote Sin and Solace. I literally went out and wrote a 2-season serial drama, audio serial about an assassin and his best friend, because the only person I could trust was myself. So this assassin started talking to himself. I never confronted it. I didn't. I just thought it was going to get better. There's this song I listened to called The Great Depression, and one of the lines that he says in this song, this is a black kid from my town who wrote a song when he was like 19 years old. And the last line of the song, The Great Depression, where he's talking about all this stuff that's happening to him, is that he hopes that it'll fade away as he grows old. He hopes depression will just disappear. We all hope that. We all hope that it's just a little roadblock. It's just a little, we're out of gas, we're going to fill back up, we're never going to run out of gas again. And it can't be that way. Bro, if you went through this time, you need to seek therapy. You need to talk to somebody who's going to listen to you without any judgment, without anything, and be able to walk with you. Because I know that you have this open relationship with your boss. We're able to discuss things with him, but you can't talk about this again, because if you talk about this again, it's going to be like, we already acknowledged this on Friday. Now you got to move past it because I acknowledged your angst on Friday. And if you still, like 3 weeks from now, those same thoughts come back as you're walking through the job where really nothing's changed, you can't go to him anymore. You can't go to her anymore. So.
But for me, I don't need that, right? I won't be worried about, because once I've acknowledged I have these feelings, this is how I feel when I come in here, I am not going to change those feelings. I'm going to feel like that every single day that I walk into that job. But the thing for me is when I get it out of me and into the world, it's another one of those energy things. Mm-hmm. When it's pent up in me and I'm the only one who is feeling this and acknowledging it, it hurts me. When I have at least passed it on to somebody else and they have come in and said, yes, I see this, if I acknowledge it, whether anything changes or not, because nothing is going to change, I am no longer alone. And that works for me. I'm not the only person who sees the elephant. I don't care if there's only one other person who sees that elephant. If that person is in a position of power and they have acknowledged that they see the elephant, they don't have to acknowledge it to anybody else for me to be fine. Because I know at least now that somebody has openly said, no, there's a fucking elephant right there. Yes, you are right. And I'm like, cool. And I'll keep on moving. And it's fine for the elephant to be there. It doesn't bother me at all. It's being alone in my logic that fucks with me. It is knowing that I have analyzed the entire situation. I can literally break down every single step that everybody did at every point and show you both the equation and the solution. And I know that it's right because it's been triple checked. And everybody else is just like, that's a blank whiteboard. I need somebody else to look at the equation, look at the solution, and say, yep, you did correct math. That's what it is. And then I'm good. We don't have to fix it. I'm just not the only one who sees it. And I'm good. Because nothing will change. I don't expect it to change. It's literally, there's 150 plus people in my company who work in my city, and 2 of us are black. 1 of us is a lead. Nothing is going to change. I'm not expecting that. I needed somebody to acknowledge that. And then for me recognizing what was going on with me, so there was part of it of holy crap, you're doing this. The other side of it is the other day, I guess I was walking up and down the stairs from the basement to my office to the kitchen, and from the kitchen around the corner, then back to the kitchen, then to the living room, then back to the kitchen. And my wife was just doing work and doing things, and I was just kind of floating. And she was like, you look at it like you're listing, like a boat that's just kind of floating from side to side, but not really like going anywhere, and almost just looking like it's tipping over. She was like, you're just listing. You're just kind of tipping from side to side. She was like, you without any direction is really disconcerting. And that was the other thing that made me say, fuck, I don't have any direction right now. And again, somebody else seeing that what's going on is actually going on helps me to say, okay, this is real. Now I need to do something about it.
Brother, that is one way that we are cut from two different sides of the cloth. Because you'll see something and you just want somebody else to say, I see it too. And I'll see something and I'll just want to fix it. I don't care if you see it. If you see it, I'm going to get even madder at you. Like, yo, if you see this, why aren't you doing anything to resolve it? And that was a situation that got me into a lot of issues, because I would say, well, if you see this situation happening, then why are you okay with just standing in the background? Well, I know how to deal with it. Well, other people don't. And so it would be like, to me, that white knight, or black knight for me, because, the black knight was always the dude to me, but that need to save those who couldn't save themselves. Whereas other people were just like, hey, I'm going to point out what's going on with this situation, and then you can choose how to get out of it if you experience it. I'm like, no, I see what's going on in this situation. I think that was the issue that I had with my boss, was that, yo, you've acknowledged the situation. Why does it keep happening under your watch? What exactly are you doing to resolve this to make it better for people who may come here 5 years from now after I'm gone and there's nobody to protect them? What exactly are you doing? And that's the situation that I would fall into, is that I just felt like it was incumbent upon me to save somebody else. So half of me wants to be where you are in your mind, where it's just like if somebody else can acknowledge it, because I feel like that would, initially I felt like that would save me from so much angst. But you've been playing Call of Duty till 3 o'clock in the morning for like months now. So you're going through the same thing I'm going through.
Yeah, so that whole thing about it's on me to save somebody else. I can't count the number of times I have been the martyr in my career, because everybody knows Gerald solves problems. And so whenever somebody has a problem with the way leadership's doing something or somebody else is doing something, they always bring it to me. Over and over and over, they bring it to me, because they know I'm not afraid to say it. Like I said, I'm not afraid to call my boss over the side and say, look, I need you to acknowledge that you fucked up, right? But being the martyr, because I've learned this, because I used to be there, being the martyr for everybody, one, they never appreciate it on the backside. Mm. You take the lashings, you take the whippings, you take the fallout of it on your shoulders because you're strong and you can handle it. But on the backside of it, those people who were weak and who were coming to you about all the things that they wanted to have changed, they don't appreciate what you did. They don't appreciate your martyrdom. And so you just basically end up laying out there broken and alone. So I've stopped doing that for other people. I've stopped being the martyr. So I don't need to be fixed. But if you're doing something that affects me, I will figure out a way on this chessboard to work my way back around to where I'm in the driver's seat. So long as that plan includes all of the facts and everybody's playing with the same things. Mm-hmm. So that's why, like, look, things have gone off the rails here. I'm completely out of control. I can work my way back into control so long as we're all playing on the same field. So I have to fix it in such a way that, hey, you all acknowledge that this move was made. Yes. Okay, sweet. Now we can keep playing chess again. So that's why because I don't think anything, especially in a corporate environment or in a marriage or anything like that, it's never going to be fixed with one or two moves, right? It's going to take a long time. It's going to take a strategic plan. But if two people in this thing or two entities in this thing are not on the same page with the moves that have been made, then you're never going to end up in the same spot. You're not playing the same game anymore. So my mental stability comes from, I'm a logic-driven person, which means every move has to be counted. Every move has to be a part of the game. And when I'm the only one who's acknowledging all the moves, now I can't play the same game as everybody else. So I need to get everybody else to be back on the same page with me, where we are all seeing all the moves, because now we can move forward and I'll figure out a way to fix it long term. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but that's why
it does.
Yeah, I just need acknowledgement, because it's a corporate game. It's going to keep getting played. Big moves aren't happening tomorrow, right? But what's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, right? That's why. That's where my mental stability breaks down, is when I cannot see a logical progression towards a future because there was a logical break somewhere in here that I'm trying to fix, but nobody else is acknowledging that there was a break. I need you to acknowledge this so that the line of development continues to make sense, right? I need the missing link to be acknowledged.
And for me, I am an emotionally driven person. So it's like, here's a small move, here's a small move. Well, how do those small moves make you feel? Like before we get to that bigger move, let's talk about how these smaller moves, how you react to these smaller moves and why you react to these smaller moves in this way. Because I don't want you to get to that bigger move and be unprepared for what may come of that bigger move. One of the things that I've always told my wife, and I think I told you and Corbin in passing, is that, and I discount it by saying it's strange, but I can hear people crying out for help. Like I feel it, I hear it, I see them, and I know it's there. And sometimes at my lowest moments, I will stand at my bedroom window and just look out, and I can hear them, and I can't reach all of them, and I can't help them. And that's just the way it is. At this point in time, it's like, okay, I know I can't help everybody, but I can help him. I can help her. And I can help this little kid right here who feels like they're not worth anything on the basketball court. I can do that. And everybody's built differently. We all have different things that different logic styles, different emotional styles, things of that nature. But mine is set, like the dial is turned all the way towards servitude, towards service. And even when I try to turn the dial back towards logic, because I feel like service is on one side and logic is on the other side, and then there's medium in the middle. And so when I try and turn the dial all the way back over towards logic, the dial will start moving on its own, just ticking like a egg timer back over towards emotional. So I don't know. I still haven't figured out how to deal with what I hear out there. I mean, I can mute it. I can help those who I can help. There's basketball players, there's parents, there's friends, there's family. But sometimes I get in too deep and I get lashed and I have to come back and figure out, okay, where did I go too far with this? What did I overdo on this experience? And then learn and go forward. And that's why I'm saying I would love to be more on the logic side, but I can't. The egg timer just keeps ticking. Time keeps ticking away. It's going to draw me back over to that side no matter what. Corbin, you've been awfully silent for this last segment, man. What's up?
No, I feel like I'm the middle between the both of you guys. I was a very emotional kid, young man, and I hated that about me. It was always mentioned to me as a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you're way too emotional. So I became the play this 7 steps ahead guy. So before I make any move, I've already kind of looked at the board a lot like Gerald would, and I say, okay, what happens if we look at this going forward and then this happens? So I play that line of thought all the way through to the end, whether that's a year, 18 months, 2 years from now. And then I go back to the beginning and start over. Okay, so if we approach it this way, what if this happens? At first, it took forever. It was very tiring. Right now, it's just second nature. Like, before I do anything, I do it just comes to me. This is going to be the logical end of this situation right here. Here's what's going to happen. I say this, and this person's going to blow up. And then once they blow up, they'll be cool, but they'll do what I want. But I just got to go through that blow up part, or they're not going to do what I want, so I'm not going to have the conversation. So how can I get to point, how can I get to C without going through B, if B is going to be the blow up? And so if I'm doing these things, I do these things all the time in my head. I drive this way. I've told people that have rode with me in places from work, and they're like, you're literally looking 3 cars ahead to see who put their brakes on. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, because I know if they brake, the person behind them has to brake, and I'm going to have to brake eventually. So I just start braking. I see the way Gerald thinks. I still need that acknowledgement, like he said. But if it can be fixed, then let's fix it. But if I've assessed the situation and I come through and I see that this is a corporate, like I work in a franchise situation. So most of the time, if I approach the owner of the franchise with a situation, it will get fixed pretty quick. I've worked in the corporate area where I knew that was not the case. That we're going to have to do case studies. We're going to have to do surveys. We're going to have to hire people to come in. And then 2 years from now, they'll tell you what I've told you would fix it. And then you might do it if you want to spend the money on it. That kind of thing. I mean,
because 2 years from now, our priorities have changed and we're already worried about something else completely.
There you go. I feel, man, I feel for you, brother. I know how that feels. But yeah, I've being on the logical side of things now. I kind of miss being emotional about a lot of different things. But I've been told I care too much about people, and I've kind of just realizing in this conversation, I've shut that off pretty much. Like, really, if you're not in my circle, I care, but I don't care enough to stay up at night about you. Mm-hmm. I care. I don't want anything to happen to you. But at the same time, if I assess that I can't change anything in this situation, I'm not going to put my energy to it, which may suck. Now, if you're my kid, you're my friend, very close family, I will run through a wall. But that's where I throw the logic out. I'll go through a wall. We're going to get this fixed, even if we have to try it 100 times. We're going to outlast whatever is going on. But as far as my work life, my professional life, people on the periphery, if I can't assess that in 15 minutes, this is not going to be a good situation no matter what I do. Yeah, man, I'll help you where I can, but I can't promise anything.
See, and where I'm at with work life is I don't really have one. I have my headphones, I have my music, I have my books, and everybody's like, he's like standoffish. He's always got those earphones and he's always got an attitude, but it's quite simply, I don't want to let y'all in, because if I let you in, then I'm going to care. And if I care about somebody at work, that's not beneficial to myself. I don't really worry about, until I worry about you, I don't worry about how you feel about how I feel about how you feel. I don't care until I like you. And then once I like you, it's a wrap, because I can't unlike you. So I try and keep people out. But I've always I can use logic. I use logic in a way that helps me to finally understand. Once I've messed things up, or once somebody else has messed things up, or once feelings got hurt, or whatever it may be, then logic kicks in. It's like, you know what? This is what should have happened. This is what you should have done. Next time, do this. And that's when I start playing chess instead of playing checkers again. But once we're in the game, logic is like my basketball coach, and it's constantly telling me, slow down the offense, slow down, slow down. Okay, coach, as soon as I get in, I'm slowing it down and we're walking up the court. As soon as he subs me in, emotion takes over, and it's whee!
Boom.
Steph Curry threes.
You just straight Russell Westbrook, just running the floor.
I'm all over the place.
Shoot a lot.
So it's there in me, and I see it, and I like the logical side of me, but I don't want to lose myself. And I know that selfishly I use my emotional side to build bridges, I think, or even to build tree houses. So then when I'm falling from the sky, I can grab a tree branch, know if there's a house nearby that I can take shelter in. A lot of people don't need any help. Like, Gerald, if I came to you every day and I was like, yo, just checking in on you, man, you good? Everything okay? You'd be like, why do you keep doing this? There's people I know who were like, why do you keep doing this? And I had to stop doing it. I had to dial it back. But initially, and I'm telling you, the "you okay, man" thing may have gained popularity in 2014, 2015. Bruh, I've been doing it since 2008. If I met somebody on social media, if we did a podcast together, I'm going to reach out and just check in on you every so often. And it had to be told to me a couple times, bro, stop doing this. Stop checking in on me. I'm a real gangster. And now everybody's like, hey, you okay, man? Checking in on each other. And I think it's beautiful. But I'm still learning. There's a lot of folks who are still in that whole, yo, dude, stop it. Stop checking in on me. And so I have to tailor my response to everybody differently. So the easiest way for me to do that is just not to get too close to people. And so everybody at my job is like, he's a jerk. Don't even talk to him. He's a jerk. You know what the worst thing is? Not the worst thing, but one of the best things, I guess. My beloved wife, Nisha, used to work at my job. She worked at my job before I worked at my job. I worked at the DMV when she worked where I work now. She left my job about a year after I got there because she got a promotion. That's what she does. She's amazing. And people at my job still like her more than they like me. When there's Christmas get-togethers and Nisha shows up, I'm ignored. I've worked there for 5-6 years now. And people will walk right past me to get to my wife. Hey, we haven't seen you in so long. Give me a hug. And I'm like, you're my boss's boss and you don't talk to me at all. And then I realized I don't talk to them. Nisha is like y'all. Nisha's exactly like y'all. It's like logic. Explain this to me. Lay this out. And since she's a logic-based person, she's able to not deal with emotion when it comes to people and just be there. Whereas I'm I got to keep a fence up to keep y'all from getting too close to me. Because if you get too close, guess what? We family now. When's the cookout? Am I invited? Who made the potato salad?
I work the same way. I don't let people get close because I'm the exact same way. Once you're in, and I care about you, right? If you're not in, I literally don't care at all, right? So I work that same way. I wanted to real quick. So a couple of folks who were talking in the chat, my LB was talking in the chat hey, get counseling, this, that, and the other. For me, this conversation.
Yes, counselor.
If you look back to what I said, right? I need somebody outside of me to acknowledge or to know the thing that was going on inside of me, and then I'm good. So it doesn't matter whether that's a person I'm paying or a couple of friends or my wife or my supervisor, whoever it is. Once I'm not the only person who knows what was happening, whether it was something that was going on in the job or something going on inside of me, once I've made it public that this is happening, that to me is, okay, I've acknowledged that this was going on. I've acknowledged that I was in a minor depression. And now I've acknowledged it publicly to other people that I recognize this was going on and why and how and what I needed to move forward. That's my counseling, because to me, once it has gone outside of me and I've made it real to other people, that is me saying, and now I can let go of this and I can continue moving forward. And next time that I start seeing myself going down this route, I've experienced it before, I've recognized it before, and I can head it off and start talking to people to not go that far. So this is counseling for me. And that was a big part of the reason why I wanted to make sure that we talked about it today, because I needed to get all of it out of my chest so that you guys know what's going on and that I recognize it was going on. And for anybody listening to the show who's out there who works like me, who just might have a complete change in their behavior and not even recognize that there's a reason for it. They may need to deal with it different than I did, but to me, that's what this show is about, right? We openly acknowledge the things that are going on, even if this has been happening for 6 months and I didn't realize it. When I recognize it, this is the place where I need to come and be honest about it.
And that's how you get unburdened. Literally, you. I'm not saying that to close out. I'm saying that's literally how you, and we all have different walks. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. But that's also get unburdened stuff.
I feel like this episode, it's good that this episode has gone this long because we didn't do an episode last week, and so there was a lot of stuff that needed to be discussed. I also want to say to the listeners that we are available. Unburdened is now a standalone show. It's available on Spotify. It's available on all the podcast feeders, so you can go ahead and find them there. We're available on Anchor. What we didn't do, Anchor allows you to get sponsors and whatnot. And what we didn't do was ask for sponsorship because we didn't feel like we didn't want to get paired up with somebody who wasn't compatible with our show's ideals or ideas. So if you ever hear a sponsor on Unburdened, just know that they were thoroughly vetted and we felt like their mindset matched our mindset. It's not just going to be, okay, you're throwing money to us, so we are going to go ahead and just put you in the mix. Gerald is in the process of doing dopebusinessplans.com. He's actually, if you go sign up at his website right now, you can get set up to go to one of his classes, either on Wednesday the 23rd or Saturday the 26th, correct?
Yep, and it's specifically for business owners who, for lack of a better word, are self-employed as opposed to being CEOs, who work for their business instead of having their business work for them. And the training's going to be specifically about getting all the pieces in place that are going to help you move from being self-employed to being a CEO who's leading the business as opposed to being the one person working in and doing everything in the business. So that is, the 23rd and the 26th are going to be the first training events that are happening. They are free. If you are interested and you fall into that category, go to dopebusinessplan.com/IWantIn, and that's where you can register for the training event.
And he's available on Twitter at GWJonesII. Corbin, who does the podcast and the vlog, Mind of Corbin, is available on YouTube. And at Mind of Corbin, always looking for subscribers, and available on Twitter at Mind of Corbin. Corbin, is there anything else you want to throw in?
It's State of Corbin.
State of Corbin, Mind of Corbin, south of the city.
I still answer to all of them. All of them will take you there.
Barberry
actually.
Jones.
That won't take you there, but yeah, the rest of it will.
State of
But
Corbin.
No, that's it. I mean, I appreciate this show today. I've learned a lot. So, and the fact that we have a two-parter. This is our first two-parter.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that at some point, you're going to hear me be as quiet as y'all are able to be during episodes where I just sit back and listen and learn. And that's cool because that's growth. I'm growing. I'm grown.
I've grown
since the beginning of this episode.
2:00 this afternoon.
Yeah. And you can find me on Single Simulcast. Again, the show is available at, if you just go to Anchor, if you go anywhere and type in Unburdened, it'll be available as a standalone show. I'll also link it back to Single Simulcast because there's folks who are still on the Single Simulcast feed. If you wish to check out the Patreon for Single Simulcast, for Unburdened, for the Dream Team, for storytellers, for the Kitchen Sink, you can go to patreon.com/Single Simulcast. It helps out all of the shows. I'm not just putting the money towards Single Simulcast people. They're all in one house. And there's paypal.me/Single Simulcast. I don't know. I am appreciative of this episode. I'm appreciative of the conversation that happened on this episode and on the episode before it, since this is a two-parter. Y'all be good. Be a blessing to somebody or be a blessing to yourself. Either way, it's so important to me. And we will holler at y'all next time. We're out. Peace. You can follow the show at Unburdened Pod on Twitter. Voicemail is 916-572-9016. Email is blackinunburdened@gmail.com.